Recording in progress.
Okay. And okay, I think we're holding on of days, Ahmad days. Reb Zera. It's towards the bottom of the phase Ahmad days 22b. I think Hashem will be able to find Torah every day. It's supposed to have a learning, we should have the base of English immediately. Okay. Gemara starts like this. We had a discussion about the age of the birds that are brought as karbanos. So there are two types of birds. One was called tyrim, it was turtle doves, and then there were b'nei yaina, which were pigeons or regular doves. Well, each one had to be, the b'nei yaina had to be young, and the tyrim had to be older. Now, what about in the middle? So we said that the middle was puzzled for both. Now, it comes along. The middle was when the feathers on the neck would start to golden, and they start to turn colors. So the question is, why is a puzzle in the middle? Is it because of a doubt, or is it because of an absolute? So by Reb Zera is the question. If someone says, "I'm accepting myself in Ayla," and I may bring it from the young ones, I may bring it from the old ones. So he leaves himself some leeway there, what to do. And he brings both. He brings both birds, but he brings them at the wrong age. He brings them at that middle age where they're too old for the b'nei yaina, and they're too young for the tyrif. So, what's going to be the din? Sveika havi v'nafik. We say, well, mimanavshach. Mimanavshach means whichever way you look at it, it should work. Because if you say that it's really too old for the b'nei yaina, which means that it's ready for the tyrim, we're just not sure. So then, okay, so I brought tyrim. If you say that it's too young for the tyrim, but it's so then this exact age you brought for the b'nei yaina, so then you have it. You have the b'nei yaina. So if the reason why we invalidate this stage, it's like the teenage stage of the birds, is because of a suffix. So now I've resolved that suffix because I did it either way. I brought this age for this and this age and the same age for that. So one of them has to work. Or do I say differently? Or do we say do we say that this stage is not a doubt which stage it is? It's its own independent status, and it doesn't work for either of them. So that's the Gemara's question. That's Reb Zera's question. They have this question by a bunch of things. Reb Zera's going to have this also. Like, classic one is Bein Hashmashas. Do we say that Bein Hashmashas is possibly day, possibly night? That's two options. Or is there a third option? That it's an independent category where it's not day and not night. There would be three options. So here we're saying, if we say that it's possibly this and possibly that, because we're bringing both of them, so then it's going to satisfy at least one of them. But if we say it's that third option of the barrier, that it's its own entity, then it won't satisfy that option. Yeah, I think in the some shows they say, "But nasach di'adaven." They say we don't say b'meh madlikin. Not like we say kagavna. We don't say kagavna. It's like it's more what they don't do than what they do. So if that would be the case, then over here we would say, what's the pshat in the b'nei yaina that they have to be young? It's that it's not old. Once it's a little old, because it already has this, and it's not the b'nei yaina anymore. So, but is it old? No. So, as I'm trying to figure out, how do you have a middle stage when you really have this down? Because if your identity is that you're not the other thing, so then once you have a little bit of the other thing, then you lose that identity, and you're not the original either, and you're not so it becomes its own stage. Okay, so this is Reb Zera's question. We look at a Mishnah, and the Mishnah says that it says min ha-tayrim, from the tayrim. And min b'nei yaina, it says from. Now, why does it say from? That from is coming to tell me not everything, which is coming to exclude if it's Tchilas Hatziyuv, which means it's beginning to mature, of the Tyrim, which means it's too young to return, or the Bnei Yaina, which means it's too old for the Bnei Yaina. That's going to be pasuk. The fact that I needed a pasuk to teach me that it's going to be pasuk, like works like this. It would work out well if we would say, Ber Yahavi, that this is an independent category. And so therefore the Torah tells me that this category is pasuk. In other words, if I would bring both of them, Tyrim and Bnei Yaina, and both at the wrong stage, then I would say that they're both pasuk, and I understand what the pasuk is doing. It's teaching me that it's pasuk, even though I had both, and really one of them should work. But nevertheless, it says no. Stop it. That would work out well. Yeah, but if you say that it's a doubt, really, when I bring it's a doubt. If I bring one of them, if I bring Bnei Yaina too old, I don't know if it was too old, so therefore it's going to be pasuk. If I bring Tyrim too young, it's going to be pasuk. If I bring both of them, this one is too old, this one's too young, so then one of them has to work. So then if that's the case, then it's Shukra Lamute Sreka. Is the pasuk coming to tell me that because of the doubt that it's not going to work? Which would mean like this. If you want to tell me in Reb Zeir's case that it does work, then what would the pasuk be telling me? Min b'nei yaina would be telling me only in a case where it's not Reb Zeir's case, where you're only bringing one. You see here, because you're bringing both Tyrim and b'nei yaina, both at the wrong stage, and if in this case we'd say, well, at least one of them has to work, but then that would mean that it's a suffix. Over here, one of them is going to work. In a regular case, we only bring Tyrim too young or Bnei Yaina too old. Then I would say that it doesn't work. Then what would Minat Tyrim and Min Bnei Yaina be talking about? Only in the case of a doubt. So which would mean that the Eberster is telling me that in the case of a doubt, it doesn't work. Now, by the Eberster, there is no doubt. By us, there's a doubt. So we have a doubt, like we don't know what time is nightfall, like Ben Hashmashas. We don't know what time it is. So we say that you have to be machmer. You accept Shabbos earlier, and you extend Shabbos at the end later. So that's a doubt. But that's because that's what we have to do, because we don't know what time. By the Eberster, of course, the Eberster knows what time it is. So he doesn't have to tell us what to do in the doubt. We have to be strict in the doubt. So over here as well, if we would say that in the case of Reb Zeira, one of them is going to be Yotze, really because it's a doubt. So does the Eberster have to tell us that you're not Yotze when it's in the case of a doubt? So that's for us to do. That's that we have to be strict because we just don't know. That's not. I don't need a pasuk to tell me how to behave in the doubt. So this seems to be a proof that it must be that even in Reb Zeira's case, it's going to be pasuk. Reb Zeira's case meaning that you bring both Tyrim and Bnei Yaina. The Gemara answers this, that it's saying that it's not really a proof, because it could be that the pasuk that's saying Menaterim Bnei Yaina isn't really teaching me Tchilas Hatziyuv, that middle age, that teenage stage, of a bird, that it's pasuk. That pasuk, I know we were using it to tell me that, but that was really an asmachta. When do I need the pasuk? To exclude Nirbav and Nervad, a person that lived with a bird, was intimate with the bird. Now, it doesn't say Raiva, because a bird can't live with a female, but a male could live with a bird, nearby a bird that was lived with, or Nevad, or a bird that was worshipped. Two things: immoral conduct with a bird, or if it was worshipped, idolatrous activity with a bird, that would be puzzle for a carbon. So the puzzle that's on min hatar, min b'nei is going to exclude those two categories, those two types of birds from being a carbon, but it's not going to exclude if it's a teenager, and it's going to be puzzle. Now the Gemara explains, why do I need psukim to teach me this? It's also that, I mean, I could have entered your mind to say, I have a pasuk that says by karbanas, because there's disgusting that was done with it. It has a mum, which means that it compares something disgusting to a mum, to a blemish. The term hashkata, which means disgusting or corruption, corruption is used for these two concepts of immoral conduct and also for idolatry. So, how do I know that? Because the Ksiv Kishkas Kolbasar Stark, it says by the flood, by the Mabel. It says that the all flesh had corrupted its way. And by Avedis Kechavim, the Ksiv can Trashkisam Asisman Pechel, lest you become corrupted and you make for yourself a molten image. We see that the term corrupted, tashchisan, is used for Avodah Zarah. So now we have that the word hashchasa is used for immoral conduct and also for Avodah Zarah. And it says, in the same pasuk, it says the term mum. We say, we're going to learn like this. Anything that a mum would invalidate, any carbon a mum would invalidate, so too, immoral conduct in Avodah Zarah would also invalidate. If a mum doesn't invalidate it, so maybe Dvar Erev and Avodah Zarah also doesn't invalidate. The Hani Oifes come to these birds. Very interesting that these birds, since by birds there's no problem of a mum, there's only a concern about male and female when it comes to animals, but not regarding birds. In other words, even though when we go to kaparos, we like say, oh, we want a male or we want a female in the kaparos, but I don't know if they really know if it's a male or female. They may be guessing. And but when it comes to karbanos, we actually don't make that distinction at all. There's no such thing as specifically a male bird or a female bird. You bring whichever bird. There's no tamas. There's no zachris. There's no concern that has to be a male. There's no tamas. If a bird has a mum, it's not a problem. Only severe mum is a problem, which means it's missing an entire limb. It's missing a leg or a wing. That would be a problem. But a regular mum, a little cut on the eyelid, or a cut on the lip, or something like that on the beak, that wouldn't be a problem. That wouldn't be a mum. It's a concept of a treifa if it can't survive. But just a mum, that wouldn't be a problem. So since there's no problem of a mum by a bird, and so I could have thought that maybe if there's no problem by a mum, there's also no problem of hashchasa, which means if there's immoral conduct or avodah zarah. So that's why we needed the pasuk of min b'nei to teach me that you can't have these for a bird. Now, what's the pshat? He told me that there's no problem. We had this whole limit. So it must be that these categories go under the more severe category of moment. We said that it's missing a limb. What the pasuk is doing, saying this avodah zarah or this dvar erva isn't under the category of moment. It goes under the category of chosar eva. It's a much more serious moment, and that's why it's going to be possible. Reb Zeir is a similar type question. Someone says, he steps on himself to bring an animal sacrifice, a burnt offering, elevation offering. Mina ayil and mina kevis. Ayil is in its second year. Kevis is in the first year. So he says, I'm not deciding which one I'm going to bring. I'm going to bring either the second year or the first year, but I'm going to bring one, either second or first year. So now he leaves that leeway for himself. The Haven Palgas brings a Palgas. Now Palgas is right after its first birthday, that first month, and it only becomes a second year animal after 13 months, not after 12 months. So after 12 months, it's not a first year anymore. It's not a keves. But in order to become an ayil, it has to wait another 30 days. So in that middle stage, again, this is like Reb Zeir's same Ben Hashmash's discussion where he did before with Tchilas Hatziv. So now he's doing this with an animal, with the palgas. What would be the din? So now it turns out that there happens to be a machlekes how this works, but Aliba de Rabbi Yechon like to buy lachtam beria. According to Rabbi Yechon, we have no shaila. Rabbi Yechon says it's a beria. The Tanan, because we've studied in the Mishnah, a krivu. If you do bring a palgas, maybe you'll have niske ayil ve'ein oil lemisifte. It says, what do you do if someone brings a palgas as a carbon? It says, well, there's different amounts of the libations that need to be brought alongside every carbon. So if it's a lamb, a young animal, then you bring a smaller amount. If it's a ram, it means it's older, and you bring double that, or double the flour, but the it's a quarter of a hin or a third of a hin. It's moving its way up, and it's more. It says you bring the larger one. Now, why do you bring the large one? Is it because it's definite, or is it because of a doubt? Rabbi Yechanan, oy la'ayil l'Rabbi Sesapalgas. It says I need a special pasuk to tell me that the word oy, it says or, that extra word in the pasuk teaches me that if you're bringing a palgas, you got to bring the extra. You have to bring the extra flour and oil. Okay, now according to Rabbi Yechanan, if you have a pasuk to tell me, that means that it's its own category and it needs its own pasuk. It's not because of a doubt. If it would be a doubt, then look, you don't know, so you got to bring the large one. You always have to satisfy the doubt. But it's not because of satisfying the doubt; it's because there's a pasuk. So that means that it's its own category, and it wouldn't have had anything if you wouldn't have told me this pasuk. The machlekes is, I mean, not the machlekes, the shaila is, according to the opinion of Barpada, that says that it's a doubt. Barpada says it's a doubt. So the question is, Damar Maisi Masni, he says that when you bring a palgas, you bring the libations, the extra libations of a ram, which is a little bit older than the palgas. So then he says, Maisi Masni, he says you bring it and you make a condition. You say, if this is a keves, because I don't know what it is, because it's only in the 13th month, so then the extra libations that are bringing should just be a donation. And if it's a palgas, then the donations then if it's not a palgas, if it's a ayil, then the extra libations, if there's nothing extra, then it's appropriate. They have to make a stipulation to say what it is. So according to him, there's a doubt. The question is, miyamrina, do we say ayil bekeves masna, that if you're bringing that you make that stipulation, is it a ram or is it a lamb? But beria lemasna, but you don't make a stipulation if it's its own entity. So that means that he has no doubt what it is. He has no doubt that it's not its own entity. It's only a doubt of what, if it's the lower category or the higher category. And if that's the case, if you would be able to satisfy one or the other, or satisfy both, then it would work. Or perhaps, maybe not. Maybe Beberyanami Masna. Damar, that he has to add in to the stipulation. That if it's a beria, then it should be entirely in a dove. In other words, if it's its own entity, then all the libations that I'm bringing for this palgos are really just an independent donation that I'm bringing. So we don't know what's the pshat in Barpada. I know Barpada says that it's a stipulation, but it doesn't say what you stipulate. So according to Barpada, we're going to have a question. If someone brings a palgos, but it could be satisfying one of the other categories, either a kevis or an ayil, did he fulfill his obligation when he pledged it? Because he brought a kevis or an ayil. Which one? We don't know. But he did bring one of them. So Teku, we leave this as the question. We don't have an answer to Reb Zera. We have a bunch of things now that go into this category. We have like an androgynous, which we don't know if it's a male or female, or if it's its own entity, the third option. We had Dina Shmashas. We don't know if it's day or night, or a third option, or if it's its own entity. We have the Palgas, which we just learned. We have the Tchilas Atziyud. Yeah, we don't know which one. 34 things. I think there's more. Which we have the same Shailan. Is there a third entity when something's in this doubt situation? Yeah. Okay. Okay, we're holding now by another boy Reb Zera. Ah, this will be the fifth one. This by Reb Zera. Okay. Reb Zera has a question now regarding chametz. The way it works is that there's a middle stage of chametz as well. The middle stage is called sior, not sa'ar, but sior. Sa'ar is sourdough. Sior is a middle stage between matzah and chametz. So Machlekes Rameir and Rabbi Yehuda, at what point is the middle stage? And we know the rule is that sear you start it. But sear on Pesach you already have to burn it once it reaches the middle stage. There's no chorus on it, but no severe. But actually, we'll see in a moment. But what stage is that? So it's a machlokes Reb Meir and Reb Yehuda. Reb Meir holds that once it reaches a stage where you have cracks in the outer part of the dough, and the outer part of the dough starts to crack in the way that it looks like antenna of a grasshopper. So then that's already chametz gomer. That's Reb Meir's opinion. Reb Yehuda holds that when it has those cracks in the of the grasshopper on the outer part of the dough, then that's considered seer, and it's not chametz gomer. Okay. What would be chametz gomer? According to Rabbi Yehuda, if nisarvu sedakim zebazef, and the antennae are so full that they're crisscrossing each other. Okay. No matter how cracked the dough becomes when it's leavening. If someone says, "Hare alai lachmei taida min hachametz min hamatzah," the heavy seer, mahu. You know that if someone brings a carbon taida, it's a Thanksgiving offering, he has to bring 40 loaves of bread. 40 loaves of bread have 30 that are matzah and 10 that are chametz. The person says, "I'm pledging," probably for someone else, I'm pledging 10 of his loaves. It's either going to be chametz or matzah. I'm not saying which one. I know that I could fulfill my vow by bringing either the chametz or the matzah. And then he ends up bringing seer, which is in the middle. So he could fulfill his vow. The other person doesn't know if it's chametz or matzah. They'll have to bring other things. But I guess regarding his vow, that's our question. The Gemara says seer demand. You know that there's a machlokes in Psachim what seer is. So Isir, the Rabbi Meir, the Rabbi Yehuda, was more lenient. If we say that it was the Rabbi Meir's level of seer, which meant that it was not kikarnik hagav, not like the grasshopper antenna. It was only that the dough whitened, the outer part of the dough whitened. Rashi's the expression is, according to Rabbi Meir, is if someone turns white because he's in fright, where his hair stands up. So that's what the dough looks like it's frightened, and that would be seer. If it's Rabbi Meir's level of seer, which is a very early stage of seer, the Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rabbi Yehuda's opinion, that has a stricter level of seer, and matzah malaisi. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, that would be perfectly matzah. And so that's such an early stage that's matzah. Of course, you yaitza. Either Rabbi Yehuda, if it's the later stage of seer, which is kakarne chagavim, Rabbi Meir, and according to Rabbi Meir's opinion, that hold that's chametz gomer, it's a chametz, then that's mamish chametz. We're crisscrossing opinions here. We're picking a amount of seer, and we're saying the other opinion. Either Rabbi Meir or Rabbi Meir, and if we stick to the opinion, if it's Rabbi Meir seer, which means a thief upon it, means that the dough turns white, and according to Rabbi Meir, holds that's actually seer. So midulaki Allah, but the fact is, Rabbi Meir holds that you also get malchus if you have this on Pesach, if you eat it on Pesach, kazayis. So it's chametz. Then that would be chametz. So how could you be? So then you would be yaitze the vow by bringing the chametz part of the 10 loaves of chametz for the korban toida. So what could Rabbi Zera's question be? Ella, the Rabbi Yehuda. Rather, we're following Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Rabbi Yehuda says, that once the dough is cracked like the grasshopper antenna, and according to Rabbi Yehuda, who holds that you don't get malchus at that stage, it's not chametz enough. So according to him, what's going to be the din over here? Do we say sveika havi v'nafik mimanavshach? Do we say that it's a doubt? And since it's a doubt, so you're yaitze mimanavshach. You took a vow, you're going to bring either this or that. Well, we don't know which one it is, but we know it's one of them. Maybe we say it's its own entity and you're not yaitze. That could be a possibility. The third category, where you're not yaitze either one of your vow. You took a vow, you're going to bring chametz or matzah for someone else. Ended up, you brought this third category. So that's the question. The Gemara asks on the question, which means we're not answering it. We're just going through the question. It says, "Amar Rav Huna Maybe says how could this ever come out where a person only has 10 loaves of a carbon taida? If someone says that he's going to bring the bread of a taida, he has to bring an entire taida. Because you have to bring all 40 loaves, not just 10. You have to bring the 30 matzah and the 10 chametz. Even the chayiv lebetaida lachma, since he is chayiv to bring the taida carbon with the lechem. Well, layodai gabri chametz the leisi matzah, imatzu the leisi chametz, and he doesn't know what this is. Is it matzah that he's just bringing now? So he has to bring another 10 for chametz. If it's the chametz one, so he has to bring another 10 for the matzah. So why do we have even this question? It's never going to come out. Now I resolved it a little bit. I told you what the Gemara is going to say. Leitricha, the Gemara explained, Tamar harei alai esechales lifter tegasi sopaini. Someone is bringing 10 loaves for someone else to resolve someone else's trade, not his own. If he would pledge it on his own, you're right. He would have to bring another 40 loaves because he doesn't know which one is which. He doesn't know. He doesn't know if he needs another 10 for matzah, another 10 for chametz. He'd have to bring another. You'd have to ignore these. Rather, he's bringing it for someone else to exempt someone else. The Gemara says, "But safe. The other person also. The yadai gavri chametz b'laisi matzah. The matzah b'laisi chametz. He doesn't know also if he's being satisfied. You think you're doing him a favor, but you're leaving him in the dark where he doesn't know if he needs another 10 or not. Like we're talking about where he didn't say that I'm trying to exempt someone else. I'm just trying to bring for someone else. Now, the other person, I know he's not going to be satisfied with this. He's going to have to bring his own. But I took a vow, and that vow that I'm trying to add in addition to someone else's carbon taida. Am I satisfying my vow by bringing this? Or not? Am I not satisfying it? Okay, so that's the Gemara until the Mishnah. No, the Mishnah says like this: Kasher bepara pasel beegla. Kasher beegla pasel bepara. We've been doing Mishnayos like this. It's like a sequence of Mishnayos. We said what's kasher for the Bnei Yaina is pasel for the Hiram. How did we get into that? Before that, we had another Mishnah, which was kasher for Malika. It's possible for Shmita. Anyway, now we're up to Egla Paraduma and Egla Rupa. We know that the Paraduma has to be shachted. It's shachted on the Hara Mitzvah or the Hara Teisin, and opposite the Temple Mount, and it was burnt over there. But it was done with a Shmita. The Egla Rupa is taken to a Nachalesim, to a valley, and if someone died between cities, and the elders over there break the back of the neck. So one is done with Arifa, which breaking the back of the neck, and that's the Egla Arufa. The other one is done with Shkita. It says what you did with the Paraduma, that's kosher for the Paraduma, the Shkita, that would be possible for Egla Arufa. What you do for Egla Arufa is Arifa, that would be possible for the Paraduma. You can't do Shkita on this, and you can't do Arifa on that. Okay. Panarabanan. Para b'shchita kshera. It says that the Paraduma is shechted. Arifa psula. But if you break the back of the neck, that's possible. Egla, Arifa Kshera, Shkita Psula. By the Egla Rufa, it's the opposite. You have to do Arifa, you can't do Shkita. Nimtzis. It comes out, it's Kasha Bepara Pasa Begla. Kasha Begla Pasa Bepara, that they're mutually exclusive the way that they're performed. You can't do one by the other one. Hey, Para Kshera Barifa, the Gemara asks, the Kalbachaimer, that we should say that the Paraduma should be Kasha to do Arifa on it from a Kalbachaimer. It's that type of Kalbachaimer where we said, like, if I can take money from my pocket, no, it goes up. Because if you can take money from your pocket, but not from my pocket, so me, I can take money from my pocket. But for sure, you should be able to take money from your pocket. It's this type of kavachaymer. It goes like this. Uma egla shaloi hafshu b'shvita. When it comes to egla rufa, it's not kosher with shvita, but nevertheless, hafshu barifa. But nevertheless, you can do break the neck. So para shahafshu b'shvita and it didn't hafshu barifa. For sure, you should be able by the para to be able to break the neck, because where the egla rufa is possible and the para is kosher, so for sure where the egla roof is kosher, for sure the parah should be kosher. No discussion over there how to even try to explain this kavachaymer. The Amar Kra, so we say no. The pasuk says v'shachat, v'shachat v'chuka. There's two words over there. It says you have to shacht it, the paraduma, and it says chuka. Now we learned before in Zvachim that whenever it uses the word chuka, it means it's ma'akiv. It means that it's essential, and it's not going to be kosher any other way. So which means b'shchita in barifa loy, that you can only do shchita on the paraduma, you can't do arifa. You want to tell me that this is a rule, that if it says chuka, then you learn a kal v'chaymer to tell me that you can do something else? It says by Yom Kippur, it says the term chuka, it says that after you do the lottery on the two goats, the one that the lottery falls out for Hashem becomes a chatas. And we've learned from that hager laso chatas vein Hashem chatas, that you can't just call it a chatas. It's only the lottery that makes it. If you would just decide on your own, that's it, I'm skipping the lottery. No, I don't know which way it's going to fall out. I'm just going to call this a chatas, and this one I'm going to call it lazazo. I'll skip the lottery. If you're going to try to do that, so that's going to be, that's not going to work. Only the girl. Sheyachol, it says, because I could have thought differently. Let's say a woman gives birth, so we know she has to bring Oila and a chatas, and the birds, Oila and chatas, the kinim, it's kanim, or kinim, these pair of birds. One is an Oila, one's a chatas. So how do they become an Oila and a chatas? You decide, you say, this one's Oila, this one's a chatas. So it goes like this. And if you make a gyral over there, it's not going to work. It has to be actually specified. So, in a place where lottery doesn't work, but specifying does work. So when it comes to Yom Kippur, where a girl does work, for sure, if you specify it should work. The pasuk tells me that you make it a chatas, which means through the girl, a girl is a chatas, when Hashem is a chatas. Okay. So I learned from this that it's only the girl, and I had to exclude kriyas shame, just determining on your own. I had to exclude that based on a pasuk. Time because Rahman of chatas. How did you exclude that? Calling it an chatas, that doesn't work because of the pasuk. But if not for that, you would have had a kal v'chaymer. Now by the Yom Kippur, it says chuka. So why do you need to do anything with this? It's automatic because it says chuka. Of course you can't. Of course you can't learn a kal v'chaymer to change it. So why are you telling me that by the egla rufa I would have had a kal v'chaymer that would have changed the halacha, if not for the v'shachat and chuka? Kal v'chaymer could change it even if it says shachat and chuka. So we see by Yom Kippur we would have had a kal v'chaymer if not for a pasuk that told me differently. The Gemara explains now that even though it says chuka, where it says that the way that we were saying that a paraduma doesn't have a rifa, it's not because of the chuka, it's miyat rachmana lagabi egla. It says ha'arufa. It's not because of the word chuka, because the chuka wouldn't have told me that I can't use a kal v'chaymer. Rather, it's because I have by the egla rufa, it says ha'arufa. It says that the ziknei ha'ir, the elders that are close to the corpse, they wash their hands on the egla. Ha'arufa benachal, that the neck was broken. Because ha'arufa, that extra word is coming to tell me that this is the only thing that's done by rifa, which is breaking the back of the neck. V'nachal is barifa, and you don't do anything else by rifa. Now the Gemara just finishes the opposite. It says, why don't we allow the egla rufa to be kosher with just a regular shchita? Kal v'chaymer, well, you do a kal v'chaymer. Exactly the opposite of what we did before. We said, it comes to the paraduma, where you're not allowed to do the breaking the back of the neck. You have to do a regular shchita. But ksher b'shchita, regular shchita works. So egla, ksher barifa, an egla where you can do this obscure type of killing the animal through arifa. In a dinshach a regular shchita for sure should work over there. The Gemara says, Amar Krav, Arfu, egla. It says that they would break the neck. Baruch Hashemas egla benachal. The pasuk says, "Arifa in v'shchita lai." We have a pasuk that teaches me that you can only do arifa. You can't do shchita. Okay. Go a little further, but my phone is on its last percent. So let's leave it over here. And okay, have a great day. Let's swim tomorrow at 7:30.
Hey, thank you very much. Hope you liked your avatar today.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, bye.